Today we're going to understand two terms that students often confuse: the p-value and the level of significance. Let's start with the level of significance, written as alpha or alpha. Think of it as a line you draw before you even run your test. It is the risk you are willing to accept of rejecting a true null hypothesis. This is also called a type 1 error. This value is chosen by the researcher in advance, usually set at 0.05, 0.01, or 0.10, and it acts as a cutoff. It decides how small the p-value must be for us to call a result significant. And importantly, it does not change during the study. For example, if we set alpha equal to 0.05, we are saying, I accept a 5% chance of being wrong if I reject the null hypothesis. Now let's move to the p-value. Unlike alpha, the p-value is a number you get after you run the test. It tells you how likely it is to get your sample result, or something even more extreme, if the null hypothesis were actually true. This value is calculated directly from your data, and it represents evidence. The smaller the p-value, the stronger the evidence against the null hypothesis. And unlike alpha, the p-value changes every time you take a new sample. For example, if we get p equal to 0.02, it means there is only a 2% chance of seeing this result if the null hypothesis is true. So if we compare the two side by side, alpha is set before the test, while the p-value is calculated after the test. Alpha is chosen by the researcher, while the p-value comes from the sample data. Alpha stays fixed for the whole study, while the p-value varies with every new sample. Alpha represents the acceptable risk of error, while the p-value represents the strength of evidence against the null hypothesis. And finally, alpha acts as the benchmark we compare against, while the decision rule is, if p is less than or equal to alpha, we reject the null hypothesis. To remember this simply, alpha is the line I draw, and the p-value is the result I get. And this brings us to the golden rule of hypothesis testing. If the p-value is less than or equal to alpha, we reject the null hypothesis, and the result is statistically significant.